Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about intent, and I will get to how this refers to video games. But I wanted to talk about it because it's come up a lot in a lot of my videos. In fact, it's often the subtext of many of my videos, and I will often say up front, this is what I'm going to talk about, and this is why. And I tell stories about why I'm telling these things, or I talk about why I'm saying something before I even go into what I'm saying. And why I thought this was going to be a serious video, of course, right when I'm setting everything up, the dog decides this is a perfect time to fall asleep at my feet. So you're going to have to listen to my seriousness with the background of Darth Vader dog. Anyway, what made me think of saying this was a few weeks ago when the capitalism video came out and exploded, and everybody's telling me how badly I understand capitalism, which I will admit. One of the points of that video, though, was to just mention that the intent of Fallout was not to critique capitalism. And people got very upset when I said that, as if I was saying they couldn't interpret it any way they wanted. Of course you can interpret it any way you want. And your interpretations aren't necessarily wrong, although they will differ with other people's. But you can't tell me what the intent was. I was there. I was the project leader. I know what we were trying to do. And it was not capitalism bad, other socioeconomic political structures good. We were not thinking that. In fact, Fallout originally got created because I had an engine I didn't know what to do with, and I thought it'd be fun to make GURPS into a game. The Fallout was very organic, the way it grew. Yes, there are many things that were in there that you could interpret as a critique of capitalism, but you can also interpret there was a critique of communism in it. There were critiques of a lot of things and a lot of social things too. So it was weird that people tried to tell me what my intent was, or even that my intent, I was wrong. I wasn't wrong. I can tell you what my intent was, and you can tell me that isn't how you interpreted it. And that's about it. And there was a whole thing about death of the author. So, and I get it. Let me tell you, so many people use that phrase that I wondered if either they weren't looking at other comments and realized that they were writing something that literally had been written by dozens of other people, or if they just didn't care. But I get what death of the author is. I don't own Fallout. I never did. I didn't own it back then. It was a work for hire creation as an employee of Interplay. They owned it. I don't even see myself as canon, especially now. I don't have anything to do with Bethesda. When I say something about Fallout, it doesn't, you cannot say it's canon. Lots of people do. I don't control what they do. All I can tell you is in the 90s when Fallout was being made, this was the intent. If it's gone off in a different direction, great. If you interpret it as something different, great. But I will tell you what the intent was, and that is what it was. So the same thing happened in a wildly different video I did where I just talked about being gay and how it affected my career, because it did. Many people responded and were like, well, why are you even talking about this? And I was like, it's because, well, first of all, I don't think a lot of straight people know how much they talk about their sexuality. They talk about it all the time. You ask someone what they did over the weekend. My boyfriend and I, we went out and looked at buying a new car, or my wife and I went to the county fair or something. Boom. But then a gay guy goes, yeah, my boyfriend and I we also went and looked at cars. Suddenly it's like, why are you talking about that? I mean, that's literally what happened at the first game company I ever worked at. So I tried to set the stage for what the 80s and 90s were like. I realize it's not like that now. It is some places, but it's gotten better, but it's not great. And the same people who said, well, why are you even bothering to talk about it? Just don't talk about it. And I was like, I talked about my colorblindness and you didn't have any trouble. And both of those are traits about me that affected my career and my work and my daily life at a game company. And somehow one is fine to talk about and one isn't. I don't buy that. But what was interesting is comments. Some people would ask questions, and it's hard to read intent into a text comment. But many people asked the same question on, like, the being gay video. Why are you bringing this up? Now, many of them, the subtext was, just shut up, stop talking about it. And what they thought was, you shouldn't just talk about it and then it wouldn't be a problem. And what they really mean is, I'm homophobic and it makes me uncomfortable. Stop talking about it. But there were some people that really wanted to know, why are you talking about this? And it was because it affected my career, which is what I'm talking about in all of these videos. And I kind of want other people to know that, because I'll get to when I'm talking about what my intent is for this channel. But part of it is I want people to know all the good and bad about the game industry in case they want to go into it. It's not going to help anybody if I gloss over all the warts. So that's it. But I realize intent is hard to figure out, which is why I said when I start a lot of my videos, I start with my intent. I want to talk about X. Why am I talking about X? Because of Y. Because I want to lay it out there so people know. Now, I've even said a few times, I couldn't even find the video, maybe one of you know what video it was, where I said I view my job foundationally. I don't take it so seriously. I said I view my job as making computers go beep boop. It's what I do. I make games. They're games. I want people to play them. I'm hoping they have fun with them. If it touches them, that's great. People have responded how much my games have touched them, how much it's affected them. And I love it. I love hearing stories about it got me through a dark period, or several people have said I learned English from playing your games because they weren't localized into my language, so I had to learn English. That's great. You have to understand that wasn't my intent. We didn't say, let's make this game and let's not put it into Polish so that everybody in Poland has to learn English. I love, though, that happened. And also, when you play my games, because they have settings and characters and stories, they do have lenses. They have points of view that get applied to issues, social issues, political issues, economic issues. When people talk about wokeness and they say this is new, it's not new. Every game has done this. Every game passed probably an arcade stand-up, and even some of them did it. I'm not an expert on these issues. I'm not portraying myself as an expert on these issues, but you need to have characters and stories that have these issues in them. Interestingly, a lot of people who comment on this channel seem to be experts in these issues. They speak with definitiveness that makes it sound like I'm now going to explain different economic systems to you and why some are definitively better than others. Now, I don't know if these people are experts. I don't even know if they have any experience in what they're talking about. Wow, do they talk like they do? But I suspect some of them have zero experience. They read a book and now they're like, I've decided this is the best way. The bottom line is I don't know what their intent is. Are they trying to convince me? Are they trying to convince themselves? Are they trying to convince people watching the channel? I don't know. But the one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to tell them what their intent is. I'm just going to respond to their comments. And to move this into something that has no emotional resonance, this happens to me with chocolate all the time. I did a video where I talked about I've literally eaten thousands of different brands of chocolate, which means I've probably eaten tens of thousands of chocolates because I discovered a few good brands and I ate a ton of that brand. I'll be talking to someone about chocolate and wow, do they have opinions about what the best chocolate? I've literally had multiple people say to me, you know what the best chocolate is? This. And I'm like, wow, you must eat a lot of chocolate. And then I asked them some questions, and it turns out they may have eaten a dozen different brands in their life. Some of them never even ate brands outside of the country they live in. And when I asked questions about that, well, you've never had a really good Swiss chocolate or a really good Japanese chocolate? They kind of, I don't eat Swiss chocolate. And I'm like, how could you be talking about what you think the best chocolate is? And you've never even eaten single origin chocolates and single county chocolates and single farm chocolates. I mean, we can narrow it down. I've talked about different species of chocolates, the Trinitario and Forastero. How can you talk about what you think is the best chocolate and you have a very, very limited experience and bad POV? But if they were going to make a game and they wanted a character who talked about chocolate, that's fine. That character could be wrong. But there's no way you could be an expert in every subject matter you want a character in your game to have a point of view on. So, that's what I'm trying to say. When you're making your game, you should have a POV. It may not be a well-researched point of view you have. It may not be even correct. You may not even agree with it. I've written characters I don't agree with. There's some psychopathic characters in my games, and I didn't think they were great. I didn't even like Forella in Temple of Elemental Evil, but I wrote her and I really enjoyed writing her. So let me go back to the beginning and say, here's what the intent of my channel is. I want to tell you stories about game development. Many of them are good stories, fun stories, make you want to go do game development. Some of them are bad stories. Not necessarily bad people, but people acting badly, bad situations happening in which there is really no good way to act. Somebody created a bad situation and now everybody's stuck in that bad situation. Maybe that'll make you not want to go in the game industry. All of these share something. They're all instructional. They're things I wish I had known 44 years ago, because maybe I could have handled some of those situations I found myself in better. Because I've had stories in here of situations I did not think I handled well. That time and experience made me look back and go, I wish I had known some of these things. I could have handled that a lot better. So I'm hoping that maybe some of you will make games. And I'm hoping that some of the games you play will be ones that I love playing because I've told you what I like in my games. But ultimately, you don't need to agree with what I'm saying here. I just want you to understand. I want you to understand the game industry. I want you to understand my point of view. So when I tell you stories about the game industry, you can understand what my spin on it is. And that is the sum total of my intent.